Hi, I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess, and today I'm doing my April wrap-up. So I read 6 books this month. Let's jump right in. I've got 3 that were either audio or Kindle, and then I've got 3 that were physical. All right, so the first one was You Will Know Me by Megan Abbott. I read this on audiobook, borrowed from Libby. This is, I guess it's a thriller mystery set around the mother of this teenage girl who's a gymnastics prodigy, and they are getting their daughter ready for qualifiers so that she can basically move along and hopefully go to the Olympics. And then suddenly the boyfriend of one of the gymnastics coaches passes away. He's hit by a car in a hit and run, and it throws everything into chaos, and people are acting sketchy, and Kate, the mother, who's the main character, kind of gets dragged into all of this. So this is my second book by Abbott. I read Dare Me several years ago, which I really enjoyed, and You Will Know Me had a lot of the same qualities I enjoyed about Dare Me. So Dare Me dealt with cheerleading. This deals with gymnastics, all of which are very cutthroat kind of worlds, very demanding sports that take a big toll on the bodies of the women that do them. So that was very interesting to see. I really like how Abbott built the mystery. It had me guessing the whole time. I thought I'd figured it out, and then I was like, and then I thought I'd figured it out again, and then no. But I ended up being right at one point, but I was right technically, but didn't get how it all went together exactly. So I had a lot of fun with this. It was a great listen on audiobook. I gave it 4 stars. There were some things that I wish that Abbott had done a little bit more with. There were a few things we're kind of introduced to that seem like they're going to be important, but then she never goes back to them. So yeah, I wish she had done a little bit more with those things, but overall I had a really good time with this. All right, next up was an ARC that I had on my Kindle. This is Little Foxes Took Up Matches by Katya Kazbek. This is a coming-of-age story set in Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union. It follows a young boy named Mitya, I believe. I think. I'm so bad at remembering names in books after the fact. And he seems to be trans or genderqueer. He dresses up in women's clothing and feels quite comfortable in that, but he doesn't want to always be in women's clothing. So it's really just him navigating his world, learning more about it. And then intertwined with this is a retelling of the fairy tale Koshchei the Deathless, which is a Russian fairy tale, and Kazbek reimagines Koshchei also as somebody who is genderqueer. So it was really interesting the way that the fairy tale interplayed with the realistic part of the book. And it was a beautifully written book. I really enjoyed Kazbek's writing. So gorgeous. I loved the way she built Mitya as a character. He was I loved him. I just wanted to protect him and give him a hug. There are some trigger warnings for this one: sexual abuse and physical abuse of a child. So please keep that in mind. But overall, this was fantastic, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one I read was also an ARC on my Kindle. This was Glass Slippers by Leah Saipas. This is a retelling of Cinderella that deals with what happens after the fairy tale, and it follows, I don't really know how to pronounce her name, Tirzah, I think, who is Cinderella's 3rd stepsister. She was just a really young child when the events of the fairy tale took place. So instead of sending her into exile with her sisters, Queen Ella, Cinderella, takes her to live at the palace with her. But everybody's pretty distrusting of her, and they're kind of mean to her, and she like lives up in this really high room with mice in it, and like it's not great. And then she always kind of senses that Ella is uncomfortable around her, and the rest of the people at court don't like her, and so it's just kind of an awkward existence for this poor girl. And then the famous glass slippers go missing, and everyone immediately blames her. And this is just the story of her trying to clear her name and trying to figure out where the glass slippers did go. And it was really fun. I gave this 3 stars. It's a cute middle grade retelling. I was surprised by how much of the kind of dark aspects Sipos chose to keep, and I was pleasantly surprised. It mostly deals with the French version of the story, but we do have the stepsisters cutting off pieces of their feet included from the German version by the Grimms. So that was fun. I like that she didn't shy away from the darker parts. I wasn't enamored with the writing, but again, it's a middle grade book. I need to remember I'm not the target audience here. So, and there were a few things that I just wanted more explanation for, particularly characters' motivations. So Ella's reasoning for treating Tirzah the way that she does. And then also, how do I say this without spoilers? But the reasoning for why Ella's stepfamily treated her so horribly in the first place, because it's never really gone into. Their story is basically, she's awful, she's horrible, but they never go into why. Why don't they like her? So I did want a little bit more from that, but Tirzah is a great protagonist. I had a lot of fun following her. I read this in an afternoon, and I had a good time. All right, and now we get into my physical books that I have. First up is George Eliot and The Conventions of Popular Women's Fiction, a serious response to the silly novels by lady novelists, and that is a mouthful of title. This is by Susan Rowland Tush. I don't know if that's actually how you pronounce her last name. I'm assuming. I don't know. So I read this for my exam reading as a secondary source, and it deals with George Eliot's essay, Silly Novels by Lady Novelists, which is critiquing kind of this genre of literature of novels by women writers that George Eliot found pretty ridiculous. And she's kind of going through, she found them unrealistic, melodramatic, and she just generally didn't like them. But then this book is going through and showing how she ultimately used these conventions in her own writing and kind of turned them around to make more of a serious statement. So this was really interesting. I had fun seeing how George Eliot was using these conventions and where in her novels they were. I do wish that I had liked George Eliot more. This book kind of made me wish that I liked her. And it did make me want to reread The Mill on the Floss, which I have to for my exams, and which I did like the first time I read it. But it made me really wish I had liked Middlemarch more, so I do think I will go back to Middlemarch at some point. And it made me wish I'd finished Adam Bede, because I didn't really know what she was talking about in most of the Adam Bede section, because I wasn't even halfway through when I gave up on that. But yeah, this was very interesting. I gave this 4 stars. I think it's going to be super useful to me for my dissertation. So, all right, next up was one that I had to read for my Women, Gender, and Health class. This is The Fibromyalgia Story, Medical Authority and Women's Worlds of Pain by Kristen K. Barker. So this is exploring fibromyalgia syndrome, FMS, and how women and rheumatologists kind of work together to construct it. So it's exploring it as a socially constructed illness, which is not to say it's not real. Barker's very careful about that. Socially constructed is more referring to the fact that the medical world doesn't consider illnesses real until they have a diagnostic criteria and a name. And so this is how women patients and rheumatologists work together to create that so that this disease could be recognized, although it is still very contested. Barker in this interviewed 30 women, and she uses their quotes from them a lot, which was very powerful, exploring their experiences with this illness, having medical professionals not believe them, just not knowing what was wrong for years and years, and then finally this relief at getting a diagnosis. So it was a very interesting read, kind of dense. So it is a sociological study, which isn't really my genre generally. There were some points where I was kind of skimming, so I ultimately gave this 3 stars. But I do feel like I learned a lot from it, so that's good. And then my last book was one that I read for my exams. This is A Struggle for Fame by Charlotte Rydell. This was published in 1883. It deals with 2 Irish immigrants coming to London and trying to make their way in the literary world. I can't talk today. One of those is Glenn Wesley, who is a young woman whose father has lost his money and she wants to write in order to support him. And then the other is Mr. Barnard Kelly, who I still kind of hate after finishing this. I'm not a big fan of him. He ends up being all right in the end, I guess. So yeah, it just deals with their various experiences with publishers, other people in the literary world, like the bohemians in the acting world, and just kind of the struggle to become famous and get published and have it be considered good. So yeah, this was very interesting. I'm thinking that it might be one of the most important books in my dissertation. I'm not sure yet, of course, but it's leaning toward there. All right, and so that is what I read in April. Let me know down in the comments below, what did you read in April? Have you heard of or read any of these that I talked about? Do you want to read them? Let me know what you would recommend for me to pick up for next month. So it's been great chatting with you all. I will see you soon. Bye.